one of the best Clemson Tigers in school history. Y'all know him, the program leader in passing yards and touchdowns. So happy to have Tajh Boyd here with us. Good to see you.
Molly, Max, Stephen A., thank you so much. This place is wholesome, and I hope that you feel that when you come
I
here.
do. I walked around campus last night. It's absolutely beautiful. We have a gorgeous day, big game tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. And you're also going to be with us on our special on the ACC network at noon. So appreciate you hanging. I want to start with our colleague, our friend Paul Feinbaum. Didn't show... Come on, Paul's my guy. Don't do this to me. Listen, listen, listen. We're all entitled to our opinions, except me, because I'm the moderator, but everyone else here is. But let me ask you this. My friend Paul, maybe not their friend, he says Clemson's not a top 4 team right now. He's kind of, this is what he said to me. It's not about last year. It's not about the year before. It's about what he's seen this season.
If the playoffs started now, no Clemson is what Paul is saying.
Answer me this question right here. Answer me this really. Has Clemson lost a game this year?
No.
Have they lost one last year?
No.
So what are they saying, Coach Carter? We're the champs till we're not the champs no more, baby. That's where Clemson is right now.
You're saying the competition you play isn't good enough.
Alabama's best win is Duke.
With no Daniel Jones.
With no Daniel Jones, all right? So, you know, we get this, and that's the issue. When you look at it on the scope of things, Clemson gets penalized for playing in this particular conference. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that this is Asgard and I'm the gatekeeper of the ACC, but Clemson plays well enough. They perform, they win games, and when the smoke clears, they're always there.
But Thor doesn't look the same anymore if this is Asgard. You know, like, you know, the fact of the matter is the difference between this year and last year is Trevor Lawrence. Dabo can say whatever he wants. Trevor Lawrence doesn't physically look right. Like, what else could explain the way he's, you know, considering the standard he set last year? And then you lost some size up front, and it's a kind of different, kind of not as intimidating defensive front.
Well, that's what's exciting about this team, the maturation of it, all right? So last year, Trevor Lawrence was a contributor. This team was Cleveland Farrells, it was Dexter Lawrence, it was Hunter Renfrow. Trevor tried to fill in, figure out his role in this particular team and lead that way. This year is different because this is his team. He's carrying all of that burden and something that he didn't put on himself. All right, he never asked to be rated the greatest college football player of all time. All that kid wants to do is come to work, man, do what he needs to do, get better week by week, and progress that way. And people won't allow him to do that. So you know what time it is. When it's all said and done, Clemson will be on top. They'll win the national championship this year.
Well, let me interject. First of all, I don't agree with Paul Feinbaum, and I've been on the record stating that when I interviewed him on my radio show. I believe the reigning, defending national champions, if you're undefeated, I don't give a damn. You should have a chance to defend your crown.
No doubt.
Somebody knocks you off, otherwise you the champion.
Yeah.
Having said all of that, here's what I don't like about what you just said. You just pointed out how Trevor Lawrence comes on the field, takes the nation by storm, and pretty much establishes himself as one of the great ones we're witnessing before our very eyes. Yet, when he doesn't look great compared to what he did look like, you're saying it's not fair to heap that on the shoulders. Didn't you want us to acknowledge him when he was great?
Absolutely. I'm not
but then what are we supposed to do? Ignore him when he's not?
And I like to say it like this. Right now, Trevor isn't playing up to his capability.
Right.
That's the issue.
Why is that?
And it's like if you're a kid, right? Say you had a kid and he was getting a B in the classroom. But you know he was capable, but hey, you wouldn't be dissatisfied or discouraged. You would just be trying to figure out how to make sure that he's playing up to his level.
You would encourage him, but you would still be dissatisfied.
But why? Why isn't he playing up to his level this year? Do you think it's the pressure everyone put on him last year?
I think that's a part of it. But, I mean, again, he's trying to figure out how to handle all of this at the same time. The kid can throw the football with the best of them.
Yeah.
In college and in the NFL right now. When we're talking about this burden on a day-to-day, walking to the classroom, taking pictures at the grocery store, the gas station, that's what you ask for when you play this game, but it's a different phase when you're talking about handling it on a day-to-day.
Wait a minute. The reason I don't buy that, I mean, I understand it makes sense, but I don't buy it as it relates to Trevor right now, is last year as a freshman, he looked like by so far the best guy. And then in the championship game, did to Alabama what I've never seen done on a stage like that. By the way, as great as Deshaun Watson is, Deshaun Watson needed to pull a rabbit out the hat to beat Alabama. Trevor picked them apart, and now all of a sudden this against that Bama defense. To me, that says when people are like, is he hurt? And Dabo's like, oh, no. Yeah, I think something like that makes more sense to me.
And it may. And again, when you're talking about the transformation of this particular team, we're sitting here at week 5. We're going to talk about some of these games later on. And you're going to say, well, who's in the playoff right now? Nobody knows. Nobody's played anybody.
Well, obviously,
we're literally halfway through
right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So when week 8, 9 rolls around, come back to me, we'll have this conversation, and Clemson will for sure look
what
like the number
about
one
the
team in college
close win to UNC? That didn't scare you at all?
No. I mean, it looked close in the Georgia-Tennessee game, first off, and early on. But UNC has a group of players who can play at a high level, too, that nobody's putting into account for. So this Clemson team is continuously, like I said, growing week by week, but nobody wants to let them do that. Nobody wants them to grow into their own.
But I have to say, my issue with what you're saying is you act like in college football you're entitled to grow. The reality is that you got Burrows at LSU, you got Fields at Ohio State, you got Alabama, okay, you got Georgia. What I'm saying is you're reigning defending national champion. I do believe that you should have an opportunity to defend your crown. I don't care what anybody says. If you're undefeated, you should be in the top 4. The flip side to it, however, is because it's college football and everybody doesn't get a chance to play one another, what about those other teams who are considered great, who would probably be playoff teams, who folks are looking at and saying, excuse me, they might be a little bit better than Clemson? What do you say to that?
I don't think so. You look at the LSU, they gave up 38 points to 2 teams, Vanderbilt and one other team out there. All right, so you look at Clemson right now, right?
Texas,
whoever that is, 38 to Texas. And I don't know how good any of these teams are. We talk about Georgia and the Notre Dame victory. I don't know how good Notre Dame is. To me, it just looked like there wasn't a lot of firepower out there. So when you look at this group of players, specifically at Clemson, you know what they're capable of. You know what T. Higgins is capable of. You know what Travis Etienne is capable of. You know what Justin Ross is capable of. And we all know what Trevor Lawrence is capable of. So right now they're a ticking time bomb, just climbing up the ladder.
I agree with that. I agree with that, actually, especially as it relates to Trevor Lawrence. I don't care who you are. You do what he did as a freshman. Right. I'm not trying to hear that dude is not the best and is not great and is not going to show that at some point this season.
Right.
I've
just never heard those expectations putting on to a guy after his first season. Now, you might have that conversation after he graduates and say, hey, looking back on it, this guy is one of the great ones of all time.
Well, I think he's being compared to, the era. Obviously, in your era, when you was there, what was it, 2011, 12, 13, people look at you differently. I think when Tua burst onto the scene and did what he did coming in the second half of a national championship game, delivering the national championship for Alabama, immediately expectations were heaped on him. So then you've got Trevor Lawrence. He's ultimately inserted in the middle of the season, just like, not just like Tua, but to some degree comparable in that regard. And people are looking at what he did and won a national championship, and now the expectation, I think, is very fair.
Speaking of that, let's compare the programs for a second. Obviously, Dabo has put a fantastic team together year after year after year. He's so impressive. And then there's Nick Saban over there at Alabama. How close are you guys as a program to passing Bama?
I think they're there.
What's that? You're better? That's what you said? Oh, okay.
And look, I'm going to explain to you, all right? Because, look, in football, coaches coach and players what?
Play.
They play, all right? Clemson is going to everybody's living room and grabbing their top players out of their states. They're going to Alabama, they're doing it. They're going into Georgia, they're doing it. They're going out to California, they're doing it. And after a while, once you start to accrue all of that, what happens? You got the best players in college football playing for the best university in college football. And that's what you're going to get here. Clemson's going to be on top for a very long time.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, the real is, I know here we are at Clemson. I think Clemson can actually take that this season. But what Alabama has built is not just like, oh, we won a couple and now we're right there with them. I think Clemson needs to win it all this season. And if they do, then you can truly say Clemson has replaced Alabama as number one in college football.
All right, you get Texas, right? You got Matthew McConaughey vying for these guys week in and week out. Texas has a couple good games. Texas is back. Miami has a couple good games. Miami's back. Oh, Notre Dame, this is a team of old. Well, this is the team of new, and nobody wants to realize that and hold it for what it is. So Clemson's here to stay.
You know what, Tajh? You're really holding your own. We're going to talk about this more at noon Eastern on the ACC Network. First Take will be doing a special there, so stick around. Thank you so much for being with us. That was a lot of fun. When we come